Hola. So I recently learned about the tiff between Spanish hola and Portuguese hola. So I'm a neutral person here, so hola. So I'm Shyamala. I'm a software engineer at Volkswagen Digital Lab Berlin, and we are basically a blueprint lab on how to develop products. Stefan gave, thank you Stefan, and you gave a really nice introduction to how to have infrastructure as a code. And today I'm here to talk about the art of crafting sustainable products. So I'm here to talk about how do you develop products on cloud. Cool. So let's first get into the meaning of sustainable, because
sorry, can you go back? I need to take a picture for Twitter. I totally missed that one. Thank you.
Not this one? You don't... Okay, so I'm a new Go convert, so I'm a backend engineer, Java, Spring, and I love Go and I love coffee, and I have big glasses, so that's totally me. Cool. So I'm here to talk about the art of crafting sustainable products. So just to give you a bit of introduction about like what does sustainable mean, right? So according to the definition, sustainable means ability to maintain at certain rate or level. So whatever product we are trying to develop, it's not like you develop it, it's done, you put it in some room, close it. It's not like that. You have to continuously improve it and add more features to it. And I just want to talk about, from a product perspective, how do you develop and operate a product? Cool. So what makes a product maintainable? So this will be the only quiz question, I think. So can any one of you say what do you think makes a product maintainable?
Good design.
Cool. Any other?
Tests.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so expected answers. So now I'm going to do a ta-da. Because I personally think that principles like communication, simplicity, feedback, respect, and courage, these are extreme programming principles. And this is what we follow in Digital Lab Berlin, as well as other labs across the world, especially here at Lisbon as well. So we follow these extreme programming principles to develop our product in a sustainable way. So why I'm kind of like saying principles is because principles is kind of constant. It doesn't change when the circumstances change, but practices are not like that. Practices needs to be flexible enough to adapt to the changes in the circumstances. So today, I'm going to talk about a lot of practices that we are following in the lab at Berlin and also in Lisbon to develop products. But all these practices are true in certain circumstances, and they might be not in certain circumstances. So I'm just going to show you like all the practices, and you can always see like what principles they agree to, but I'm not going to talk about like, yeah, this principle, that principle, but you can see it on the slides there. So how do we do this in lab? So how many of you know about Golden Circle from Simon Sinek? Cool. Okay, so I really encourage you to just have a look at it. It's really an interesting thought process. So the Golden Circle talks about three important things: the why, the how, and the what. So we have three defined roles in the lab. Every product has these three defined roles. One is the product designer, who is always asking the question, why do we need to solve this? Is there another way, there is another solution already there, can we build it, or do we have to build it on our own? This is one of the most important questions we are asking every time we want to develop a product or we want to solve a problem. And that is like the most important role of product designer, because they are like the user empathy managers who are like putting themselves in the user's shoes and then trying to do research and trying to see what really is the pain point of the user, whether it be the end user or like business users or it's an API. The product designers are always focusing on the usability of a product. And then we have the product manager who is trying to achieve like how we are going to build the solution. And then comes the product engineer who is focusing on what needs to be done in order for this product to be delivered and be live, right? So when you look at this, this how this is structured and what I said, you might think that, okay, they are all like silos, like operating on their own world. It's really not like that. So we have balanced teams. So we all work together. We are all co-located, and that makes a big difference because all of us are really like focused on what is the user value and what is the business value, and this brings us together. We are a team. We are sitting together, and we are working with the whole focus in the mind that what is the problem that we are trying to solve for this user. Cool, that I'm a product engineer, why do I care, right? Because the most important thing when it comes to operating a software, you can have a product with like so many features, right? But if you don't know what the user's pain is, you don't know where to put your effort into. Just to give you an example, let's say you have your Facebook, right? So what will you care more about? Like bringing user into the platform or like deleting the user? Maybe how, like not so much time like people are deleting their Facebook account. Maybe they just don't use it, or it happens once in a while, but you have to know what the user is interested in. Most of the time they're interested in coming to the platform or using the platform. And if you as an engineer don't know what the domain is, what the problem is and why we are doing this and how, it's not really possible to build a sustainable product. So yeah, I know the problem domain, so I just like code and then go back to sleep. We are not doing like this in the lab. We have a lot of human interactions. So from the next slides on, I'm going to talk about various different practices that help us to really build the 12-factor applications that Stefan mentioned in the previous talk. Cool. So the first thing that we always start with in the beginning of the week is the iterative planning meetings. One of the great things about these iterative planning meetings is that we prioritize what we are going to do basically only for the week. This allows us to be extremely agile, and we don't need to focus on a lot. We are only focused on the current week. And one of the main things about this iterative planning meeting for me personally as a product engineer is that I'm able to now know that, okay, what impact when I deliver, what impact the user or the business is going to get when the story is delivered. And we try to make the stories as simple as possible so that you are able to finish it within a day or two. And a lot of effort goes into that by our product managers. And as engineers, we are honestly saying like, yes, I can complete this, or it's too complicated, or we might need to research, spike, or like we are not sure. We are very honest in this meeting, so we are not giving false estimations that we can land on the moon or something like this. So I have highlighted the things like outcomes, not output, because we don't care about like what is an output. Output could be something like 10,000 users in the month, or it could be like 100% test coverage. It could also be like 54,000 lines of code, whatever. But that doesn't mean that you have made an impact to the user. So we care more about our outcomes. So whenever I say push and it gets delivered, which means that I know that there is some impact to the user, and this is something as a product engineer I care a lot about. So in the next coming slides, I'm going to talk about different practices as an engineer, how we are able to achieve these outcomes, right? One of the unique things that we do is pair programming. So you might all think like, so two engineers sitting together and discussing something where like, they can just go separately and do things. I kind of disagree with that. I used to do this for like 7 years or 8 years, and for the past 3 years I've been doing it doing pair programming, and I wouldn't do any other way. I'm going to tell you why. Because when you pair program, you're basically coming to a solution really quickly, and you always have like person who is confident, and maybe you can have like a person who is not confident, so there's also like chance to learn from each other by asking questions. And then you're able to also like write readable code, which is more important, because when two people are looking at it, you always care like, okay, whether the other person is going to be able to understand the code or not. So one of the things that I read is we read more code than we write code. So this is a very important thing that comes naturally when you do pair program, because we also have like a minimum team setup, which would be like 2 pairs. So we are constantly rotating, and this is a big advantage because there are like 4 people who are looking into the code. And the biggest advantage in my opinion is that the team owns the code and that not one person owns the code. So if something is blowing up, the team comes together and takes responsibility automatically, and not doing git blame and see like, oh, you did this. This has never happened in the team. So this is one of the greatest advantages. I think that you're naturally having like a safe place to work and a safe place to share your opinion. And one more thing is like best pair programmers. I have like the courage value here, because the best pair programmer is a person who is able to say, let's try your idea first, and also to say that I don't know, because you're constantly exposing yourself to the other person, and it takes a lot of courage to also let the other person grow and also admit that if you don't know or you don't understand some things. And one of the other things we do is that we have 2 monitors, 2 displays, and then we have 2 keyboards, mouses, so that we are not peeping over the other's shoulder, so both have control over the same code base. So a typical scene in our office looks like this. So you have like the devs, and you also have like designer developer pairing, and sometimes designer would like to know, okay, whether this is feasible or not, and it's a great way to collaborate and build a great product. Cool. So now that we talked about how we are writing code, one of the other important practices that we follow is test-driven development. So this is very important because we are able to build code, like push our code really confidently, because we are doing the test first approach. So what does test driven development mean? That you're first writing an automated test, you're waiting for it to fail, and you would only do as much as that is required for the test to pass. And when I say this, it's like the daily way of working. We are not doing it any other way, but like I said, it's also like a practice. So which means when some circumstances changes, then you have to adapt the practice according to it. And most of the teams are also like doing mostly the outside in approach, so you're writing a behavioral test and not focused on writing implementation tests. So which means that you're also not having 100% code coverage when you're using some tool or something. And it also gives you immense courage to push your code, and you have like less defects. You have 2 people sitting together and discussing all the happy parts, sad parts, and this is really like one of our core values of how we develop sustainable products. So moving on, the next thing is continuous integration. What is continuous integration? Is the ability to integrate code into your shared repository multiple times a day. I still remember that we once had like a radical thought that every time our test is green, we would push the code. So the advantage here is that not only you're actually communicating the changes to rest of your team, which means less merge conflicts. And we also use trunk-based developments, and I know there are like several opinions about it, but in the past 2 years we haven't had like major merge conflict or anything, and we are able to work as a team together on the same code base, whereas everybody is and plus our teams are really small, like maximum we have like 3 pairs of developer working in one team. So this is really working well for us, the trunk based development. So we are able to push our code multiple times in a day, and every time we push we are deploying our changes to at least sandbox. And I worked for, like I used to be part of a team where every commit that we do goes directly to production. We have that much confidence in our test suite, and that we are able to make like every push and every feature we deliver, every time we commit code, it goes to production. So how we are able to do this? So one of the key tool that enables us developers to concentrate on our product and not on the platform is basically Volkswagen Web Services, and we also use AWS managed services. So which means that we are not deploying our own MySQL cluster or anything, rather use what is available from AWS, for example. So let's deep dive a little bit into Volkswagen Web Services, which is actually allowing us to build really great products, and if time permits I would really like to show a demo. So it's basically an installation of Cloud Foundry. So any Kubernetes enthusiasts in? Okay, I would really like to talk to you about the user experience, because CF push is like by far the best user developer experience that I have like seen, because it's so easy. Yeah, and I also had my hands dirty in Kubernetes, so I have like, I would like to understand this. So then Cloud Foundry also has support for multiple languages. So we are not as a team bound to one single language or a specific tech stack. So we have application that runs in Spring, Java, and then we have Go, we have Python. There is even a .NET build pack which you can use to build .NET applications in the cloud. And we also have marketplace for all the services, like database services, monitoring services, logging services, whatever you need, it's already there. So you really like concentrate on building and operating your product. So it's the same like how Stefan said, that we have a platform team and a product team. A platform team operates like, mostly they also follow like similar practices that I have said before. They have like continuous integration, delivery, and it's also a platform as a product, for example. So I would really like to show you a demo, but let's see if there is some time for it. Okay, how many of you had this confusion whether it has to be like, do I now invest my time in features, or do I care about if my product is reliable or not? Has anyone had this confusion? A lot of us have this confusion, right? Like you sit in this planning meeting, and then you have like tons of features, and then like my code is not resilient enough. How do I convince my product manager, for example? So let's just have a look at what it means to have 99.99% of availability, which means you can only be down for 4 minutes in a month. So if you have to have only 4 minutes downtime, how much effort you need to put in this, right? So currently I'm working for a team. We are like the site reliability engineering team, and we are trying to give this knowledge to all our product teams, that what it means to be reliable. So if you can, just to go back, if you can only be down for 4 minutes, then you as a product needs to invest some time on reliability. So reliability is a product feature. This is something that we are trying to tell every product team out there. And then measure what matters to the end users. Because like I said, you can have tons of features, but maybe you know what is the critical path, and when users are complaining that, I mean, your health check endpoint can say 200 all the time, but that doesn't mean that your users are happy. If your users are complaining, you have a lot of support calls, then you're down. So which means you have to measure and know what matters to the end users, and then spend your error budgets. So let's again go back to the previous. So when you say that you can only be down for 4 minutes and that is your error budget, and why is it called a budget? Budget is something like a money that you can spend, right? So we actually like ask product teams to spend their error budget, which means that please be down for 4 minutes every month. Because you're telling the users that you are only 99.99% reliability, so that they are resilient enough to know what they should do when you are down. So this is very important for the product teams to know, that you have to be like, down for 4. Let's say that you were not down for 4 minutes, and then you have like this database migration, and you think that it can be done in 2 minutes, and we recommend the teams like, please shut down your systems for 2 minutes, do the database migration, and then be back, so that like you don't have to have this crazy code of like having another table, moving things from here, things there, and then deleting all the code and all of. So you don't have to, because you are basically allowed to be down for 4 minutes in a month. So the moral of the story, yes, if you have error budget, you can work on features, because changes, most outages that come today is because that you basically introduce changes to the system. Like I said, if you put it in, like have a server not connected to internet, deploy it, close it, probably it's just going to work. But you don't want to have that. You want your users to have better experience, you want to have feedback, you need to have features. So when you have error budget, you can take risks, and you can make changes to the system. But when you are down, then you have to invest in reliability rather than working in features. And this is a very great way to convince product managers or product owners to say that maybe we are not going to work on features now, rather we are going to work on reliability, because either way the users are happy. Cool. But doesn't mean that like, so we follow all these practices and we have principles. Does it mean that we are not down? Like, does it mean our products are never down or something? It's not the case. Like, we continuously learn. So that's why whenever we have like a downtime or something, we do blameless postmortems. So postmortem is something like you do when you had a downtime, then you bring all the stakeholders who are involved, including the customer support, to understand the timelines of events that occurred. So you're basically tracking what was done, and what was the fix. And the main important thing is the action item, that how you would avoid this from happening again. What is the lessons learned? And the even most important thing is sharing with everybody, being transparent, that no software is like perfect, everything can be broken, and our users needs to know that, the business needs to know that, and what efforts we are putting in order to make our system reliable. So we use like very simple, like a whiteboard, some pictures, some Word document, and pass it around. And we always, because of all the ways that we work as a team, we are co-located, we are pairing, we have like the team together, the designer, everybody is in there. So we are always trying to be humble and kind, and not blaming everybody like, okay, you did this or somebody else did this. We are one team working towards one product. So we're always trying to be humble and kind. So whatever I said is like theory, but in reality we have like from Berlin 2 live products, and we have like 20 plus polyglot microservices written in various different languages in the platform, and we are achieving 99.9% availability. If you're interested what products are live, please come and talk to me. And I just want to end this talk by saying that this was really like we had an issue and one of our services was choking because it was like 34 milliseconds. That made everything bad, and the whole team was there, including our product manager. Everybody was so supportive. One pair was working on it, the others were answering support questions, and this is us after like we fixed the issue that the response time became 2 milliseconds. So I just want to say that we have the happiness advantage. We are able to build sustainable products because the team is happy. The team has a really good support culture, and that's why we are able to achieve what we have today.
And as you can see, it was German summer at the time.
And one more thing, so this was 3 days before Christmas. So even though like you could go back to family and spend time with them, we were there, and you can see how happy we are. We are not sad that we spend, so this is like the great culture that is really important. So it's not the practices, it's kind of like the principles what you strive for. So do we have some time? Okay, cool. So I would like to show a quick demo of how easy it is to push an application to our platform. So let's look at what I have here. So this is basically a simple Spring Boot Kotlin application, and let's just see how easy it is to deploy. So I'm going to say so we are just telling Cloud Foundry that what is the name of the application and what is the type of application it is by specifying the build pack, and yeah, it's Java, so I'm always giving it 1 gigabyte no matter what. Sorry, that's a bad joke. You don't have, if it's a simple application, you don't have to, if you don't have so much load anyway. So you have to tell which artifact you need to deploy, and then just the health check type, so Cloud Foundry knows when your app becomes healthy, right? Cool. So I'm just going to see that there is no application there, so I'm going to say cf push, and it will push. So this is a Java application, right? So on the right side I have a very similar Go application. I'm just going to just like it's the simplest thing possible. So you say ping and it says pong, right? Cool. So again, it's very similar, just that you are saying Go instead of Java, and then you say what is your health check type, and then you specify which version of Go that you want to use. So let's see how fast a Go application can be pushed. Oh, okay, Java wins now because I started it earlier. Cool, so let's just see if I can do this, and it says status up, and it's as easy as that. So as developers, we really concentrate on making like our product better, and this infrastructure is also making us easy to kind of like monitor and deploy the product as well. So cool. So sorry. Dash go. And it says pong. Cool. Okay, I really want to show the obrigada. So thank you so much, DevOps Lisbon, for giving me this opportunity to share with you how we develop sustainable products. Thank you so much. Obrigada.
Also, thanks a lot, Shyamala.
Shyamala.
So, again, time for 2 questions, and also we have time later outside to make other questions.
at the beginning, do you start with a test-driven development approach, or it was introduced after you bring up some new developments?
So, like I said, Berlin is actually a blueprint to change the way how software development is done within Volkswagen. So we always do greenfield products, so which means when we decide that we are going to do a product, we start with like test-driven development. We set up the whole pipeline to be able to do CI, CD, and normally every team is also having a stage which is called production, even though like you're not really productive, but the idea is there from the beginning, and we do only greenfield products, so we really do this thing from scratch.
Can I make another question? do you make the side by side, the peer does the TDD does the test first and develop both peer do that?
So you mean like one pair?
One pair does the TDD and development house?
Yes, yeah. So
not
there are like
teams, not different teams.
Every team, so in lab we have like 6 product teams, and every team does the work in the similar way, and there are like different types of pair programming depending on the skill level, and like if you have like the driver navigator, and then you have like when 2 people are experts in the same level, and then you do ping pong, so you just like have a clock 20 so that everybody gets this like the keyboard time, that not somebody who's like really good at keyboard is just like typing all the time.
Other question?
How often do you rotate the pairs? Do you rotate on a daily basis? Or?
Yes, so most of the team rotates, so again it's like the practices and not, so some teams have like, sometimes you are like new in the product and you need more context to the stories and everything, so you have like, okay, 2 or 3 days you stay like with the same pair. Sometimes you also need to know the pair dynamics, when you're new to the team, you have never done pair programming, so it could also be like, hey, I would like to pair with you. So but most of the times we are rotating every day.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you so much.